All right, we are live on the Extraordinary Sports YouTube channel and podcast. Very excited to be on the mic with M. Marshall, R&B, this brother of Brandon Marshall in the NFL Denver Broncos. M. Marshall, how we doing? Thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
How are you?
Doing fantastic. So I kind of want to take it back to childhood to kick things off. I know you grew up in Las Vegas, gravitating in a sports household. You had a lot of things that interested you. Did sports and music come to fruition for you in terms of loving them right off the bat early in childhood?
Well, as far as music goes, that I gravitated to that first. I've been singing for as long as I can remember. To sound not to be cliche, but
yeah,
my grandmother was a church organist.
Oh, wow.
So I would spend a lot of time at my grandparents' house. So whenever she would go practice on her piano, I would too. So music was my first love. I didn't start playing football until I was about 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And falling in love with that when they were racing. And I was the fastest kid on the team, and they put me at tailback. And I was scared to go through the hole, so I didn't remain tailback that year.
Right.
But just carrying the ball, man. That and watching running backs, that actually is what made me fall in love with football. And then next year, all the way up until probably my 8th grade, I was a tailback.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I love scoring. I still remember how it felt. I still remember the play of my first touchdown. It was a sweep right. We were about on the 40s. And I went through the 8-hole and got to the second level, made a move on the linebacker, and it was a foot race with the safety, and he had no chance.
Oh, that wasn't your brother at linebacker, was it?
What'd you say?
I said it wasn't your brother at linebacker you made a move on, was it?
No, he was still too young to play at the time.
Oh, okay. No, I was half kid.
Yeah, I'm older than him by 2 years. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So back to the piano thing, I'm curious because I took 11 years of piano. I learned, I guess, the Suzuki method by ear initially. When you were hopping on with your grandma, were you jamming by ear? You would pick up on what kind of just an intuitive piano player and artist, or because obviously you can learn by notes, you can learn by ear. I'm always curious as artists and how they go about.
I'm definitely a by ear guy. I can read a little bit. I can read a little bit of music, but not proficiently. And even with me playing by ear, I would never call myself a piano player or pianist.
Mm-hmm.
Because the guys that I play with, the guys that I sing in front of, those are piano players. Those are, they're really proficient on their instruments. But I think I just really enjoyed listening to her and listening to what was going on. And they said, my mom told me that I had a real infatuation with pedals for some reason.
Nice.
The pedals on the piano. So sometimes I'd be sitting on the bench with her. Other times I'd be down there watching the pedals go. Weird, but hey.
That's what's. Do you remember? How about in terms of listening to music outside of your family? Was there a particular genre, an artist you gravitated towards, whether their music, their style, how they carried themselves?
I wouldn't say a particular artist. I didn't really get into really figuring out what artist I liked until probably high school. But I remember in middle school, that's when I branched off, you could say, and I stopped listening to to as much R&B.
Mm-hmm.
So I branched out and was listening to alternative rock, and I liked groups like The Offspring, and I thought Metallica was new at the time that I was in 6th grade, and
awesome.
Aerosmith and bands like that. So and from there, I started skateboarding. So that really, for some reason, that was my music discovery. I discovered a lot of music, and I discovered a lot of other things that I enjoy doing too.
That's awesome. Well, I'm curious because you obviously have the sports background, also music. I'm fascinated with both, and I love that you could say sports can influence music, music can influence sports. Can you touch on that at all in terms of basically how because there's just a lot there, and I do find the comparisons and how they are kind of run parallel with one another to be very interesting.
Well, Brandon, for one, most people don't know, but Brandon really has a really good ear for music. I'll give him that.
Well, hey, he must have heard. I heard Changes, man. Changes is phenomenal, by the way. I want to get to the second. I honestly thought your voice. I know I read. I thought it was a tremendous single, man. Honestly. Yeah.
It's been really well received because I think it's a subject everybody can relate to.
Yeah, but you're not just singing. You know how. Yeah, and you know how sometimes artists are just, and obviously you wrote your lyrics. Not every artist does that, and so you just say in terms of the ethos, all that. You just seem like you have meaning and passion behind your words, and that carries through for people that are listening more. Average listener, so to speak. I just wanted to mention that because it really, and the music video as well. Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, cut you off there. But like you were saying,
I was saying, Brandon, like with sports influencing music and the vice versa. Brandon, when I do go to games in Denver and I ride to the stadium, it's like a couple rules. Mm-hmm. Brandon's always driving, and he's always on the radio. Nobody can play anything. Don't ask. Just he'll be nice, but he'll be like, "No, bro, it's game day."
It's pregame, baby.
If my mom is in the car, right? Even if my mom is in the car, normally he would try to out of the rougher music, you could say, click.
Right.
And I'm sure he does. But he'll look back in the back seat if my mom's with us, and he'll say, "Sorry, Mom, this is the kind of mood I'm in." So preemptively, then he'll play, some trap, some Migos, whatever.
Right
and
on.
My mom will just sit back and she'll laugh, and she'll say, "Well, you know what? Whatever helps you play better." She has yet to this day say, "Okay, I can't listen to that. Turn that off." So I think he does well in picking kind of what he's going to play.
I do find
if we are with him.
Pre-game music for athletes to be interesting because you got rah guys that want to get jacked up on some, you could call Metallica, things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
And then you got guys that, are quiet. They keep to themselves almost. And then there's guys that don't even music. Interesting. I mean, I know it's all about just getting in the flow, getting in the zone one way or another game day, but it is interesting that different guys prepare and music seems to be, in the center of their pregame unless they're going all natural and, listening to just nature and their breath.
I'll give you this little gem at the risk of getting cursed out, but Peyton Manning listens to nothing.
Wow.
On game days. He in the locker room around his locker, it's dead silent, like cemetery silent. And on the other side of the locker room though, those guys are losing it. Rah, listening to whatever. I know I was watching a special on Andy Dalton. He actually listens to gospel music, like contemporary Christian gospel music, which is kind of like a rock gospel.
Right.
It's rock music with a gospel message. And, some guys, they listen to I've seen a guy listen to classical music. So the psychology is very weird because some guys say, if I'm too nervous, I won't play well, so I need to calm down. And other guys are like, man, if I don't get up, I won't play well. I can't fall asleep.
Right. Well, I'm curious about the silence thing, because I'm a daily meditator. My mom taught us visualization. I got two brothers myself, and she taught us that in regards to sports. You know, close your eyes, see the basketball, the free throw going in before you shoot it. You know, see the soccer ball going top left before you score.
It works.
Absolutely. I think that silence thing is interesting because it's all about the present moment, and it's the same thing with music. I think in your craft, getting yourself centered, I find it to be fascinating because if you can set intentions before you go into an action, I find that the result can become way more favorable than it would be if you just kind of walked into something. Not everybody does that or is conscious of that, and I feel like you very much did that with your song Changes. You put legitimate thought and everything behind it, got it organized and structured, and then got yourself in that feeling space of where you were when those words were coming about for you. And you can see that being very well received.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been doing music a long time, and one of the parallels to life is, make a choice and the universe will get out of your way. Like you say, if you focus and you visualize and you don't just happen to stumble upon doing something, things tend to go better because there's thought and there's intention, and now there's energy and a whole bunch of other forces working for that.
Absolutely.
So Changes was actually it was just at this time it was just me and my brother. I didn't have my manager on board or any of the other team members that I have now, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to stress myself trying to find all these people. I said, I think if I make good music, they'll come. So that's all I tried to do was just make good music.
Love it.
And sure enough, in my life that now are essential. I don't know how I'd be where I am now without a lot of the pieces of that were placed in my life.
Absolutely.
People that were placed in my life.
Well, it's special what you and your brother are doing with Valley. You know, I find it, just reading the article, I read about this several months ago, but supporting each other. And my younger brother's a artist as well. He's teaching himself producing, and he's made several songs.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and he's all about, just like you are, and in regards of just lyrics with intention and having meaning behind them. And I kind of wanted to touch on that with you because lyrics in music, they have to move people in the moment when you're listening to the song, but you can almost also impact someone's way of thinking, which is something that craft in society has that ability. And I feel like you're someone I can talk to about that and jam with a little bit, because it's writing a lyric to just go along with a beat, get in where it fits, and you have meaning and your words are important. Can you touch on that a little bit of from the artist's perspective of how you choose to craft each song that you produce and write?
Well, when I first started, that was me. So it came natural. And I found out throughout the years, trying to do other things and, maybe be somebody else and else or do what I think people want to hear, it doesn't always work out that way. A lot of reading and music is incredibly powerful. I think it was a quote. I can't remember who it was by. I want to say Hitler said, he said, give me the music of a generation and I will control that generation. Music is one of the only things I was reading up. Music is one of the only things that can pierce a person's conscience without their consent. If I'm watching something visual and I don't want to watch it or be influenced by it, I can close my eyes.
Right.
Music. And even if I open my eyes and see something, I can process it in my mind and see how it affects me later. But music, put it this way: how many songs have you learned unintentionally?
Oh my gosh, so many. Or yeah, starting with local commercials that you don't want to learn.
That your mom played. Countless other things. So I know how powerful music is, and it's my intention to make great music all the time. And the business. So I used to fall into getting very self-indulgent and always making music that I wanted to hear all the time, and sometimes that isn't what's going to be best for the company. So people like my brother and other members of my team, they actually balance me. I'll have to take a step back and say, okay, they're ready for that yet. Or I don't think that'll be received well. Balance it between, making the music that makes me happy, which is my best music, and making music that will further the business.
Right.
Because
I feel you on that. Absolutely. But I'm glad that you're moving forward on what you feel in your heart's the best, because I mean that is, I don't know, I've heard some interesting takeaways on songs. Sometimes songs effortlessly, and then other times their struggle, and that's kind of back to the flow thing athletes talk about as in the zone. It could be called in the vortex, in the flow, whatever you want to call it. Do you know when you're in that creative space? Because again, it's as an artist, peaks and valleys, and it can be an emotional roller coaster. Do you know when to strike, so to speak, on pen to paper or words to mic?
Most definitely. This process, the way I used to work was I used to time myself with writing songs. The Dream, he wrote Umbrella for Rihanna, that her biggest smash hit that launched her career. He wrote that song in 12 minutes.
Wow.
I time myself, and I say every song I write needs to be in under 12 minutes.
Wow.
And it doesn't always work like that. Like on the other side, I know if I'm having writer's block, and it's a difference between having a difficult time creating something and writer's block.
Well said. What do you think the difference is with that?
What'd you say?
What do you think the difference is with that? I find that because I do stand-up comedy as well, so I can somewhat relate, to when you're feeling legit writer's block.
The difference in I'm frustrated, but I know that I'm on to something. There's hope. No, I know I'm on to something. It's just a little hard right now. I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Like it's coming. I just gotta work a little bit harder or change my approach. Room, or go outside. Something to spark it. Writer's block is deep, dark place where there's nothing. There's nothing, and everything I come up with is so bad. Like it's almost shameful. I know at that point I need to take a step away and do something else, non-music related, totally non-music related.
Right.
It's writer's block is just, man, it's beyond frustrating.
But that's what's interesting about about your craft, because like you just alluded to, Umbrella is written in 12 minutes. It's like when you're in the zone, baby, you're in the zone. Let it flow. When it's not there, it's tough to, like, the inner critic or the whatever inside you that's like, no, you got to work right now. You got to produce. But then it's like, all right, if you're not aligned, if you're not in the flow, if you're not in tune with your true self, and maybe you're operating from the ego or surface level and you're feeling, not necessarily all trusting in the moment, it's tough to walk away sometimes, as you feel like, all right, well, I'm not being productive right now. But then again, it's like when you do get in that good feeling space, that's a special period. It's just, it ebbs and flows. So it's very interesting how you're breaking this down.
Most definitely. For me, I know, like, I'll have an issue stepping away, especially if I'm, working with somebody who I want to work with, or I'm spending, money in the studio, or I really want to get this done, or I'm under a time, deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Push a little harder until finally I'll just say, okay, you know what? It's not it right now. It's just not it. I try to do what I call let the song write itself. Just let it come. It'll come.
I love it. Well, you have that same attraction with how you set your intentions with, okay, if I make quality music, that they will come mentality, and now you have your team and you're rocking and rolling. So that's pretty parallel in that regard, and that's great consistency.
Definitely.
Do you obviously we learned so much about life through sports and music. Can you touch on any life lessons that either sports taught you in childhood or music has taught you over the years in regards to life lessons or your perspective?
Yeah, really, it's funny. You don't really think about it, but then you if I could say anything, sports and music, the life lesson that they have both taught me, I would say it's trust the process. That's it. Just trust the process. You'll know where you need to be. I wanted to play basketball in middle school, so I was trying to work. I was trying to work at it. And basketball is not my sport. I suck at basketball. No matter what process I tried, that didn't work. But with football and even track, baseball, okay, trust the process. Trust, I'm going to throw, when I was pitching, I'm going to throw, 15 at each pitch a day. I had a fastball, a changeup, and a slider, and 30, 45 pitches a day.
Yeah.
And then just let it go. And after those 45 pitches, I started to nail each one more consistently, and that was a process. Just trust the process, even if I'm not getting it at first. When I was learning musically, we're very limited. So when I was meeting people coming from different places like New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Texas, different things musically, vocally, that I wanted to do, and I couldn't do them, I had to sit back down, go to the drawing board and learn again, and trust that just like I learned how to sing, I learned how to do all this cool stuff that everybody else is doing, that everybody else overdoes now.
Yeah, that's true. But I like the trust the process. Absolutely. It's interesting though, in 2017, as we sit here, it's a very instant gratification world. That is an easier said than done comment, but it is, I'm listening to an interesting book on audio right now, not the art of war, but the war of art, which is talking about as an artist in any regard, how distance to win sometimes, and that we don't, we look for everything outside of ourselves, but why we're doing what we're doing. And that's why I'm really big on why and then how and then what, why you doing what you're doing. If you can't answer that, then how are you going to go about it? What do you do? That's why it's interesting. A lot of people aren't, they're just sleepwalking, but it's a very fascinating concept because it seems like you have a great perspective on not just your artistry, but also life, because music is life, you could say. I'm saying same thing with comedy. Comedy and truth is life. It's all around us. And I think as an artist and someone, I love your quote of in an article I read before this said, you said, I enjoy helping the community out as well as being a positive influence for others. I think it was Jennifer Hudson when she won something for Dreamgirls back in the day that said, if I have this platform in the celebrity culture and I'm not utilizing it to make a difference, I'm not doing it right. And it sounds like not just you, but also your brother, your family is very much about that. And we truly need more artists to think like that, especially in today's day and age.
Most definitely. Shitty world we live in sometimes, yo. Like, never thought in my life people that are like keyboard warriors, and it's funny back in the day, back in the AOL chat rooms when somebody would get mad and you know, try to go off at you. But now it's the thing. People are literally getting famous for being assholes on the internet.
It's absurd.
They have word trolling, like guys that spend the whole day dedicated to rumors that are outlandish and not true. Those rumors because they're interesting. My thing with that is like, okay, we got enough negative. You know, we only need a few people to be positive. We only need a few people to believe it. To believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love it, man. And your brother as well. I mean, I got to shout him out for politically and supporting his college teammate Kaepernick from University of Nevada, and you know, taking a knee and standing for what's right. And that was obviously not every athlete had, you know, I don't say the cojones to do that, but that was just
an interesting time. Though, thank you.
Yeah, what was your as being the older brother to Brandon during that? What was your takeaway, kind of observing everything from the inside?
Well, first, he never told me he was going to do that. Now he doesn't have to. Obviously, he's a grown man, but
yeah.
Usually we talk about. I wouldn't say everything. We talk a lot, especially about, you know, major things, but. He didn't say anything to me or my mother, cousin, and he called another guy he respected. And, you know, for whatever reason that may be, you know, he didn't. Now, when I first saw Cap do it, I was like, well, I didn't know the reason behind it. I was like, what is he doing?
Right.
You know, and then I learned the reason. And then, you know, Brandon, first game of the season on Thursday night. Everybody happens to be watching it because it's the first football game of the year, and he does it. And I drive up to the bar, and I see him there, and I got on my Brandon Marshall jersey, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, I was. The way I'm struggling for words right now, I'm like, okay, well, all right, this will be interesting. So then I make the mistake of taking out my phone. And Twitter's blown up, Instagram's blown up, MySpace is blown up, everything, goddamn it, is blown up. Everything. And there was a moment where I was pissed because there was so much negativity. But then I start seeing a lot of positivity. People that I really respect, like Mark Lamont Hill and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and people, black men that I really, really respect. Eric Michael Dyson,
amazing,
complimenting Brandon and giving him props about that. And at that moment, I was so proud I could have cried, because I'm like, okay, we aren't alone in this. They understand, you know. And honestly, nobody said anything to me in the bar that day. There's no negative, nothing positive, no negative. Like, I was surprised. I was expecting the worst way more than I was expecting the best, and that reminds me always to not always expect the worst. You know.
Yeah, it was a great stance he took, and that's fantastic to hear that it was overwhelming. And, you know, again, back to what you were alluding to just before that, that comment about, you know, so many people on Twitter and the keyboard confidence, and how many people would have the balls to say that to someone's face, that they are behind a keyboard. You know, that all trickles out when you have guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson, among others, that are supporting what your brother did. And, you know, even standing behind it, as far as, you know, the endorsements trickled out as well. That didn't have a leg up on what he was standing for. for, you know what I mean? And that says a lot about his character, your guys' family. I'm sure how you were raised, because, you know, and he was standing up with a brother, because Kaepernick was the first one to do it. And it's a phenomenal moment in time that maybe we'll see it again, maybe we won't. But either way, I thought it was necessary. And had your brother not done that, it would have almost left Kaepernick out on an island, man. It was an ultimate of just a teammate and a brother being there for his brother when he needs it, man.
We know Cap personally. We know Cap. I should say I also know Cap personally because, you know, Brandon, going to UNR for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, you spend a lot of time with. If I'm hanging around with my brother whenever I'm in Reno, I'm hanging around. He's hanging around his teammates.
Of course.
So I got to know Cap. People really don't know. People underestimated how smart he is, and how aware he is, and how honest and caring, and how much of a genuinely good guy he is. He really is. So when it happened, Cap, you know, he had this meteoric rise just a couple years before. You know, they got to the Super Bowl and they lost. So he saw a lot of things, man. It changed.
Oh, yeah.
And him and my brother actually didn't speak for a while. After Cap contract and everything, you know, just due to life.
Right.
But they reconnected after this. Reconnected and understand, and I support you. And Kaepernick said, I understand and I support you. And Kaepernick showed me a lot of love. I had an interview with Jaleesa, and you know, he gave me a sweatshirt and a hat, and his girls, they supported me. And like you say, it was just your brother supporting your brother. Even though Brandon didn't tell me, you know, right or wrong or indifferent, I'm going to support him. You know, I'm going to always support him.
Honestly, that's what's what.
And I told him, I said, Brandon, let me put this in perspective for you. It's crazy getting able to see into those silent moments of somebody who's doing something on a world scale that's controversial. That was pretty much his birthday weekend. We met up in New York at the hotel, and he was just sitting on the couch, just face. And he said, "Man, I didn't think it would be this heavy." And he realized it was a big weight on his shoulders. And I told him, I said, bro, I said, look at it this way. Last year you won the Super Bowl, and you were a part of sports history. And that's major. That's incredible. You're forever etched in sports history.
Yeah.
I said, what you did past weekend, I said, you're etched now in American history.
Wow.
I said, my kid may possibly read about you one day.
That's real talk right there, man.
He kind of looked up at me and was like, man, I get it. I was like, you can't expect something this serious with the potential to make so much change. I said, it's on your shoulders because you can carry it.
Without question. And again, that's, you know, it's to be the first guy absolutely takes balls, but there's no way Brandon didn't hear, you know, the backlash of what Cap was doing during the preseason. I mean, that was widespread throughout the sports community. So he took that knee knowing that it was going to be controversial to some people, but that it didn't matter because he did it with his heart. And it's just ridiculously commendable, man. It really is. And I love that you were able to do that, give that perspective, the older brother, you know, support and empowerment in that moment, which I'm sure that's a moment Brandon will never forget in the midst of that birthday weekend, sitting in the hotel lobby or wherever you guys were, and being able to say with sweet sentence, yes, you were part of a Super Bowl champion team and you're etched in sports history, but now you very well may be in a history book. Well, now on a tablet, you know, for our kids moving forward, for years to come for that.
Right.
So that's awesome, man.
He got it. He got it. And my brother and I are real serious with each other. I mean, not real serious. We're real honest with each other. We don't pull punches for the most part. I'm the artist, so I'm more. You could definitely say I'm more emotional, more, you know, free thinking or whatever have you. He's real straightforward. I need facts, and with that comes the time for no bullshit. Like I'm not gonna bullshit you, bro. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be hearts and roses. Like I said, it's it is what it is. Good.
I'll get you out of here with this. I know you're busy and got a lot coming up here next month. Very excited for you. You said a quote in this article about Val. It was per the launch of Valley View Entertainment. You said, I enjoy helping the community out as well as being a positive influence for others. There was a quote in there that you used to inspire yourself as well as others that said 2 + 2 = whatever I want it to be. And that's something that you pull out when you need motivation or inspiration. I wanted to hear you touch on that. I found it to be a pretty interesting quote that you could probably interpret in several different ways.
Yeah, my manager actually gives me grief about that quote. It's
really?
Actually, that's a quote from an interview with Tavis Smiley, where they were speaking on topic. And the follow-up to that quote, I should say, is if you and I are discussing, let's say, your career, and you say, well, I want to go into these markets and do this or whatever, and I look at you and I say, well, realistically, you can do X, you can do A, B, and C. That, to me, when you're talking about a dream and something you really want to do and something you really focused on and something you really feel in your heart you're supposed to, you can accomplish, realistically, it's supposed to be a turn-off word. Okay, so now you're placing me in a box. Nothing, no great invention, no great idea, no great change was ever accomplished or brought up or done, completed by someone who was thinking realistically. Realistically, black people were never supposed to go to schools with white people. Realistically, black men playing in the Negro League were never supposed to play baseball with these great white players in the major baseball league.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, hell, I wasn't supposed to graduate from high school, honestly, realistically. So 2 + 2 = 4. But in my thinking, when I really feel like something needs to happen or I need to make something happen, 2 + 2 can actually equal whatever I want it to equal, because the power of thought and intention and your ability to change your vibration and change the vibration of others around you, that realistically can't be explained. Science explanation for that. So, fuck realistically.
Mic drop, baby. Let's go. That was very well said, honestly. I gotta follow up with that one last thing for you. You're following your dream, your passion, and you're empowering others and affecting others in a positive manner. In today's world where we have the internet, where someone like myself, no one told me you're going to get a sports show. I just started a sports show because that's what resonated for you. Similar in regards to a permission slip wasn't necessarily granted. You move forward on it, and now you have a team. You got an album drop. Everything is aligning for you in divine timing. What would you say to people out there that maybe are letting their inner critic win, or that realisticness that you just alluded to win, rather than staying in the optimistic mindset, staying in that intuition, your gut, and getting out of your own way, so to speak, so you can rise above and be about impact and change and helping others also pursue what they love and feel they're here to do from a purpose standpoint?
It's weird because I run the gamut of emotions, like from the time where I was one of the first people to be in the YouTube partnership program, and I had a single overseas and I had a placement, and I was really making some traction in my career, to falling all the way down and having to start from ground zero. There's some pretty dark times, and I just really had to ask myself. I can't remember where I got it from, but it was like, okay, damn. If I had to say this to anybody, I would say, right now, wherever you are in your life, you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
I love it.
Whether that be because of choices that you made or something out of your control, you're where you're supposed to be. Now the trick is to find out, now that you know you're where you're supposed to be, what are you supposed to learn? Try to learn that. Try to find that out. Try to figure that out. Okay, and then after that, next comes the decision. Every choice, every intention that you make in your life, from here on out, you have to think, does this to becoming the person that I want to become or not?
Well said.
Thank you.
Oh, very well said. I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up. I'm in the flow, baby. You got me in the flow, man.
That's gonna be great today, bro.
Let's get it. Well, dude, I so appreciate the time. It was a true pleasure talking to you, M. Marshall. Anything you want to shout out right now or edify out while I still have you? I just really enjoyed myself.
I want to say thank you for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Kind of crazy doing interviews with the NFL Network and everything. They showed me a lot of love, but obviously, this is a show primarily about sports, man. And heck, I appreciate the interview. So thank you. Shout out to my label, my company, Valley View Entertainment, the whole Valley View family. Always shouting out my brothers. Shout out to the fans. Thank you, the new ones and the ones who have supported Brennan, and the ones that will start supporting me. That's really it.
That's awesome, man. And thank you. Absolutely. I try to have a sports show with a platform for being able to touch on life and philosophy and X's and O's, getting deep, because again, sports is, as well as music, it's something that brings us all together, and I'm all about community, baby. You got a natural point guard over here. Let's get it.